Hi guys, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Judd and I own a Mark IV Golf R32, and I'm looking to start up this blog, and I have loaded my first video already to YouTube as a 4K edit. Just obviously something I was trialing with, but I thought, why not? I'll just start a blog, and I think a lot of people are doing it anyway. I'm quite new to this, so any pointers or tips, just put it in the comments section. But yeah, I have literally wrote down stuff, bullet pointed it, and so I don't get diverted away or get carried away with something. So keep me right, basically. So yeah, so quick introduction about myself. I used to be an ex-mechanic and now I'm working from home. I still work on cars, predominantly my own, and it's more just for cost savings. It's what actually got me into mechanics, to be fair, because not everyone wants to pay £1,000, £3,000 bill just for maintenance repairs. So one of the things that you benefit obviously is that you can do a lot of it yourself, so a lot of the costs have been reduced, and you probably save that in labour intensive jobs. So yeah, parts wise, parts are always going to be parts. You'll always spend money on parts, but yeah, that's my background, that's what I used to do, and right now currently I am trying to do a conversion on a Mark IV R32 Golf. Cars wise, history wise, what cars have I owned previously to my R32? So my first ever car was a Mark IV 1.4 petrol Golf, and it was in reflex silver. I then upgraded, or would I say upgraded, almost downgraded in a sense, to the 2-litre non-turbo Mark IV in reflex silver again. For those that you don't know, terrible engine. I think it's probably one of the worst ones. I hope I haven't insulted anybody, but you could probably reassure everyone else, yourself, that it isn't the greatest engine out of the model range. And then funny enough, I skipped past the more important one, which is a 1.8 turbo. I jumped to the 2.3 VR5 engine. That car was in gold. Not a big fan of the gold, but I got the car cheap, and yeah, why not? I also had a 1.9 TDI. That was whilst I had the 2.3 VR5. I also owned a 2.8 VR6, also got that cheap as well, and that was in Tornado Red, my first Tornado Red out of the three that I've had in the past. I say all three because all three are in the past, which I'm gutted about because I'm a sucker for reds. And the 284 motion, that, or slow-mo as it's known, that's obviously the cruiser equivalent of the Mark IV R32. Before moving on to obviously the actual R32, my first R32 out of the two R32s I've owned, eventually that's where I got. So bar that, I've not really owned a lot of other cars. I've just recently sold a Mark VI Golf R. That was in one of the ones in Tornado Red. That car, I'm gutted to see it leave, but it's tying up a lot of my funds for this build and this project, so I needed to get shot of it. I will, hopefully, I did message the buyer of my car, and that says, like, if you ever in the market to sell it again and I'm in the market to buy, then I'll be happy enough to take it back off you. Obviously, going on a bit, so lovely car. I believe it was one of the first red 3 doors made in the UK. It was the ex-demo vehicle or car for Volkswagen, and it was reviewed by Autocar, and I think it was also on Volks Wizards YouTube, and it featured along the 5-door red. So it had a lot going for it. It was high mileage, but I don't really think mileage should be a thing. As if you've got service history and you've got everything to back it, then high mileage cars aren't bad. And that's what I was going to actually cover on some of the points on my prior cars. So my first R32, that being said, so yeah, I have owned the VR5, the Mark IV Slow-Mo, as you call it, a 2.8, and the 1.9 TDI and the 2 litre at the same time. So it's the most cars I've ever owned at one given time. And that I ended up parking them all on my mum's drive because she had a long driveway she didn't use. So I don't think my parents were too happy at the time. I was quite a number of years ago, but yeah, 4 cars. So 4 Mark IV Golfs. Other than that, I've owned an A4 Avant Black Edition S-Line. I think it was a B4 shape. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe B7 shape. I can't remember. I've not had a lot of Audis anyway, but as you can tell, I've only ever really owned VAG vehicles, bar Vauxhall Vivaro for a work van. That's about it. I've not really owned any BMWs. I've not owned anything else like Mercedes or anything like that. So yeah, the first Mark IV R32 I had was in Tornado Red, so that was the second Tornado Red I owned. I owned it for a good number of years. It was 8 years, and 8 years. And I sold it on, unfortunately, another one that I regret selling on, as I said, sucker for reds. So yeah, that one I owned for 8 years, and I garaged it most of the time, so it was kind of low mileage at the time, pretty much low miles, and I think I was worried basically that I would put miles on it and it would devalue the motor. So I had it at 69,000 miles when I got it, and I put on, I think, up to about 80,000 miles on the clock. So I didn't really do a lot of mileage for having it for 8 years. I probably drove it for about 1 year, and I garaged it for the rest. So you're probably wondering, why would you buy a car just to look at it? But yeah, I didn't buy it for that intention. I loved the car. It's just, I sold it for the reason that I wanted to just buy a higher mileage R32 and not have to worry about putting miles on it. So yeah, it made sense to sell it on and then go and buy a higher mile one, so that I'm not really caring how many more miles I put on it. And actually, I mean, like, because I'm working from home now, I'm actually putting even less miles on it, so that's great. So high mileage R32, purposely so I can enjoy it and drive it, because that's what you want to do when you buy a car. You're there to drive it, not to look at it. You could if you want. Some people prefer that, but it's not me. So yeah, I'm past that. So 1 Mark IV R32. On my second, I've owned that for now going on 3 years, potentially 4. I think I picked it up about COVID time. That itself is Black Magic. It's the first black car I've owned, and actually it's the first one with a sunroof, because I have really wanted one with a sunroof. Out of all the models I've had of the Mark IV platform, I've never ever been able to get a hold of one with a sunroof. Not that it's difficult, but it's just at the given time when I was in the market, I just couldn't find a decent example with a sunroof. So I did get one eventually. It is the one that I currently own, which is great. I'm now back down to one car, because I just recently sold the Mark 6R, and yeah, even that didn't have a sunroof. So yeah, so this Mark IV R32 that I have, I'm looking to now convert it to a R36 Turbo Dsg. R36 Turbo Dsgs in the Mark IV platform. I haven't seen a lot of them done really. I think maybe in Europe there's a couple, but I see them in the Mark VI platform getting done a lot, and a lot in the Mark 1, 2 and 3s, because they're just, you've seen so many of them with either 32 turbo conversions, 36 conversions, 36 turbo conversions. So the Mark 1s, the early generation ones, they always kit them out and kit them out and strip them as well, because they're so light and powerful, and they always take them on the drag strips. You see the YouTube videos of that as well. So but yeah, the car itself has been going on, I think, since I've had ownership of the car, I've been trying to do this conversion. The funds from the red, obviously the market was good at the time when I sold the red Mark IV R32, gave me the funds I need to then pursue this whole conversion on the black one. So where am I with the build currently at the moment? I am sat looking at January going on February to complete the first stage. So I'm going to do the build in 2 stages. So it's going to be, first stage, I put the R36 with the DSG in, naturally aspirated, not turbo it, and then on the second stage I turbo the car. Obviously there'll be a lot more parts involved, the exhaust manifold, a couple of other things, so you're probably wondering why am I just not doing it at the same time. It's kind of down to the fact that originally I had someone that was doing it for me that let me down, not going into it too much, but I was on a certain, like, I had a figure in my head, and basically that figure's now been blown out the water because now I've had to move on the project to somewhere else, and quickly I found that I don't think I was going cheap on it, but because if I told you the figure right now, you'd probably like that. Well, that's still quite expensive, but I hadn't actually thought of how much more it could cost me. So technically speaking, the turbo can wait right now because even though I've sold that Mark 6R to free up the cash and free up the funds, I'd rather do it in 2 stages because it is crazy money to build these cars. So the good thing is the money that you spend is worthwhile because it's a unique build at the end of the day. I've not really seen many of them. Like I says, I was touching on it before I got carried away there, but there is literally only one build that I know of in the UK, and if you're in the UK yourself and you're aware of it, it was Brendan's old Mark 4 R36 Turbo, exact same colour. It's pretty much almost the same as mine in terms of spec. I have a few extra stuff that he was getting on to do on his, but I've owned the car a bit longer now, so it was the back brakes and that, but it's spec'd out pretty much the same. Lovely cars. I got the sunroof, his had a sunroof as well, but that car gave me inspiration basically to go and do this build. So unfortunately, that car did get broken up. The engine made its way back up north here with where I am. The buyer of that engine didn't want to sell it on at the time when I was looking for the engine. I did have the opportunity to buy it from Brendan, but I just thought, I didn't have the money at the time, and it was just too many things going on. So I wasn't in the market to buy at the time when it was going up for sale, and then when it did sell, I tried to buy it off the buyer and then he didn't want to sell it. And then funny enough, when I did get an engine, he wanted to then put it up for sale, so the buyer of the engine. So it's just bad timing, all round bad timing, but it's actually worked out better because the original person that was helping me do this build provided me with an engine with only 20 to 29,000 miles on the R36 engine before it got broken, which is low. That's really good, man. I'm not going to mileage watch with this one. I will use it. I'm not going to park it up or anything like that, or garage it. I plan on actually tracking the car, but it's a bit across. It's going to have to be a hybrid because I need to also daily it, even though I don't really put a lot of mileage on the car. It's good because at least then I can take it down the shops and not expect it to break down because it's running too much power. So I want it also to be reliable and not just powerful. So power wise and power gains and what I'm looking for, that's been changing constantly. Originally I set out for 500-700 brake horsepower. Now I'm kind of sitting about there anyway. 500 to 600 I think is what I'm probably going to get at the moment with the current setup that I'm potentially going for in the second stage. So once it gets on, then I can maybe try and up a couple of things, and I feel like if I spend too much at the beginning and it goes all terribly wrong, then I don't want to then be out of pocket based around the fact that it keeps breaking down and I'm running too much power. So yeah, just a good balance basically. So the build itself has pretty much been set up to go good to go basically. So it's just the labour now in order to get it all together. I've got all the bits I need. I bought a couple of extra bits that I was intending on buying anyway for the turbo side of things. So I've got the EMU black I have a couple of other things that I'm still looking to buy. A couple of suppliers that are still trying. I'm still trying to get an answer back from. So gradually, I'll buy the bits for the turbo. But I already have the turbo, funny enough, so I can pretty much park it up like my car, sit and look at it, and just look at it basically. So can't do nothing with it till I get the manifold and the inlet and a couple of other things as well. So I've got a time scale on it. It's been 3 or 4 years, and I think if anything now, if I get the first stage done, then I could be timescale wise looking at the second stage for going on maybe, I would say another year for it to actually be turboed. So I'll give myself a good bit of time there, because then I can save up for all the extra bits that I need and get this finally finished. So yeah, all started off as a hobby, then became a job, and now it's back to a hobby. So I've got another thing on the side that I'll be looking to obviously touch on. It's the camera gear, all the stuff that I'm using, audio mics, cameras, gimbals, that kind of thing. So that will help you make decisions on what you want to do if you just want to film your own car. I will be dropping a roller shot on YouTube quite soon, I think. As soon as I get an opportunity, I'll drop it on YouTube. I'll try and stay consistent as much as I can. I'm usually caught up with work and stuff like that, but as soon as I get the opportunity, I'll put it up. It's already on my social media, so if you want to check it out, my links in the bios for the TikTok and Instagram. I've only just went onto TikTok, so I'm relatively new to that, whereas Instagram, I've been posting on that for a while, so you can see my content on there. If you just want to try and click on it, you can see my roller shots prior to me posting them to YouTube. So yeah, so I think that's everything. Yeah, wheels. I have 2 sets of wheels as well. I have Rotiforms and I have Oz racing wheels as well. So I actually bought them so that they would retrofit to both vehicles, the Mark 6 and the Mark 4 R32. PCD 5x100 for the Mark 4 and 112 5x112 for the Mark 6. So now that I've sold the Mark 6, I have 2 sets of wheels that technically fit those 2 fitments, but I'm actually happy enough to keep them. And if I ever get another car, another Mark 6 or something with the fitment of 112, then at least then I'm not having to get rid of wheels. So yeah, it's always good to have multi-fitment on both sets of wheels. And the wheels that I'm running right now, the Rotiforms, they're more for show. They're 19-inch and reasonable tyres on them, whereas the Mark 4, the 18-inch, not Rotiforms, the Oz racing wheels, they have the decent tyres on them. The ones that I had to fork out for, Michelin PS4S, I believe, is the correct terminology for those ones, because you had the PS4 tyres and then you had the PS4S tyres, which they've discontinued, so that's just great. The PS5s, I don't know if they will do a PS5S for it, but yeah, spent a good bit of money on them, so I've slapped them on the 18-inch alloys, of course, because better to have smaller wheels, round track, and less heavier than the Rotiforms anyway. Very light wheels, actually, very light wheels. So yeah, so that's a bit about myself, a bit about my car, a bit about the build, a bit about the second hobby to the hobby, which is the camera gear and everything else. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, and hopefully I can post another video quite soon and stay consistent. So drop me a comment or a like, tell me what you want to see, and I'll try and make it work. Yeah, show you around the car on the next video. See you later.